Welcome to the Derry Planning Board meeting for January 15th, 2025. Our first item is to pledge allegiance, and if you would please rise and join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A few items of housekeeping. The planning board voluntarily continues to offer remote participation. Our clerk is participating remotely tonight, so we'll make sure we announce who moved and who seconded and all that kind of good stuff for her benefit. To attend the meeting remotely, if you have a computer or a smart device, visit www.zoom.us. Enter the meeting ID 754-663-912. Or by telephone for audio only, you may call 646-558-8656. Same meeting ID 754-663-912. If you have difficulty getting in, call 603-845-5585. And if you are on the phone, toggle *9 to raise your hand to be recognized, and *6 to unmute when someone recognizes you. I will now introduce the members and staff who are present this evening. To my far right, alternate Ms. Lavoie, alternate Mr. Mousy, planning director Ms. Robidoux.
Good evening.
Town administrator representative Mr. Chase.
Good evening.
Member Mr. Healy.
Good evening.
Town council liaison Mr. Grenice.
Good evening.
Vice chair Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening.
Mr. Provencher's hanging out in the back of the room tonight, but he's here.
Good evening.
Town engineer Mr. LaRue.
Good evening.
Member Mr. Fishman.
Good evening.
Member Mr. Myers.
Good evening.
And member Secretary Mr. Malaby.
Good evening.
Mr. Feinauer won't be coming this evening, so I would like to seat Mr. Mousy in his place. So you may come up and join us and be a voting member for this evening.
Did you introduce yourself?
Oh, and I'm Dave Nelson. I'm the chair. Next item on the agenda is a matter of escrow. It's item ID 25-01, first of the new year. Hyla Brook Wedding Venue.
Thank you. So this is a final release of the performance bond that was issued by IFC Surety in the amount of $259,070.40. The amount to retain is $0. The site is fully constructed.
Okay, what is the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I also move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by O'Connor, seconded by Grenice to approve as presented. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
As an abutter, I'll abstain.
Thank you. Mr. Mousy?
As an abutter, I'll abstain.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
And Mr. Malby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Then we are on to approval of minutes. We have before us the minutes of the December 18th, 2024 Planning Board meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them, and are there any errors or omissions?
Mr. Chair, I see no one raising their hand, so I move to accept the Plan Board meeting minutes of December the 18th, 2024.
Second.
It has been moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malby to approve the minutes as written. Again, I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Mousy?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Malby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Even though it's not on the agenda, we have in our packet the minutes for the January 6th, 2025 visioning session, number 1, for the Gateway Zoning Committee, which is a public meeting. So has everyone had a chance to review those minutes from your package? If so,
I see people shaking their head, yes.
what's the board's pleasure?
Actually, there's one error on here. I'm listed as present. I unfortunately was not able to make the meeting.
Okay, noted that Mr. Malaby was not present. Any other errors, omissions? Mr. Grenice?
Yeah, that's me, present also, I wasn't here. I
Okay,
did watch it on TV, though.
yeah, okay. So we will remove Mr. Malaby and Mr. Grenice. Anyone else?
Seeing no further adjustments to the Gateway Visioning Session Number 1 minutes of January 6, 2025, I so move.
Second.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby to approve as amended. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
I will abstain as I was not present.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
I will vote yes, because I did review it on TV.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes, I was here.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Mousy?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
I abstained because I wasn't there.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes, I did watch the meeting.
Okay, and I will also vote yes. So that takes care of approval of minutes. We now go to correspondence.
So we are blessed at the start of this new year. We have two pieces of correspondence, which I believe are both in your packet. The first is the planning board schedule for 2025 and the corresponding deadline for the submission of applications. And the other is a letter from the IMEG group, specifically Jim Petropoulos, letting us know that TC Boston Development has submitted a dredge and fill application to the NHDES Wetlands Bureau for the impacts going on off the Old Rum Trail. NHDES requires the notice to legal abutters for work within a jurisdictional wetland.
And I presume that's because this has been declared a project of regional impact by Londonderry?
I don't believe they have voted on it yet. This application is being submitted to DES in advance of planning board review in Londonderry.
Okay,
But I would,
it is being proactive.
yes.
Excellent, thank you. And does that take care of correspondence?
Yes.
All right. We'll now move on to other business. We have a couple of voluntary mergers. One involving Derry Oak Village Cooperative with a whole bunch of parcel numbers, and I think this maybe requires a little bit of elaboration.
Okay, thank you. So the properties are located at 97.5 Fordway Extension and 97 Fordway Extension, lots 2, 3, and 4. As the board's aware, the RSAs allow for landowners who own 2 or more contiguous parcels of land to apply for a merger of their lots. In this instance, there's no mortgage on the lots, and the approval does not create a violation of current ordinances or regulations. I apologize for that. That was incorrect. In instances where there's no mortgage and it doesn't create a violation, the request has to be approved. You can't transfer the lots afterwards without a formal subdivision approval. The 3 lots intended to be merged in this case are manufactured homes and are intended to be merged with the manufactured housing park. The lots are in the MHPD zone. Items of note from staff, the mortgage holder, the Community Loan Fund, indicated consent to the merger. The merger does not violate any existing regulations or ordinances. We did check with the water department to make sure that we didn't need to update any utility billing, and we were advised that for the lots 2, 3, and 4, they're already in service for 97.5 Fordway. And the department would recommend the application provide documentation showing the lots have access to an approved septic system, as we didn't, that department didn't have one on file. As they are being merged into an existing manufactured housing park, the merger would be for land only. And the parcel ID numbers need to be retained to identify the dwelling units in the event of a future sale of those units. So the recommendation would be for the board to approve the voluntary merger of the land only, retaining the parcel ID numbers for future sale, and that the applicant provide proof of access to a septic system for the merged lots.
Okay, thank you. I'm staring at the plot plan that's toward the back of the package. I'm trying to, number one, figure out which pieces of land we're talking about, and also staring at what appear to be parcel IDs. There's some numbers that says T/L 211 something, and then there's also a map 107, lot number 0222. I don't know, is 211 a map number?
Map 2, Lot 11 is a, in this area, you have map 2, Lot 28-11, oh, no, 118. Which one are you looking at, sir? Okay.
There's no, heavy line as to, which lots are being merged, and the parcel IDs look inconsistent, so I'm just generally confused by this plat.
Okay, so the parcel that says, on the recorded plan that says D26920 towards the back of the packet, the main parcel is, it's identified on this plat as map 107, lot 0222. That's actually parcel ID 02022. The map number, that's an old designation. So the area that says Deborah Lane is the area that, as you look right where it says Fordway, and you go up 3 lots. No, skip the first one, 2, 3, and 4. Those would be merged into that Deborah Lane lot.
Okay.
Does that make more sense now that, okay.
Mr. Grenies?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Are these the 3 lots that they recently, Derry Oaks recently purchased?
Yes.
The 3, yeah, I was actually down there, and I actually talking to one of the residents, and I was corresponding with, I believe, the president of that, because I was down there. Myself and Councilor Chair Spencer went to the ribbon cutting ceremony when they did that with a bunch of other people from the town. And I happened to go by there, and I asked the people I talked to, I said, how's it going here? So I'm very familiar with that. So it is the 3 coming in. So they're planning to, I didn't realize it. I knew they bought them because they told me exactly what happened and why they bought them. And I didn't realize that they were going to merge it. So knowing that area, I mean, I see no problem with this.
Okay. As long as we're clear on what the actual current parcel IDs are.
We are.
Any other
Yeah.
questions? Yes. Mr. Myers?
2 questions. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Your third bullet point on your first page there at the bottom, it says, "The department recommends the applicant provide documentation showing that the lots to be merged have access to an approved septic system." So is that something that's not there now, as somebody that's not familiar with it? Or is that just something that's going to be made a condition of our approval of this?
So the lot 97, what the wastewater supervisor indicated was lot 97A, which is that larger lot, the Deborah Lane lot. You said that lot has, so 97A has public sewer. He doesn't have any records of a septic system for the other lots, and he would like documentation that lots 2, 3, and 4 have access to an approved septic system, so that we know
Okay.
that they have sanitary disposal.
Okay, I heard what you said, so my follow-up is, are we making that a condition of?
I would recommend it.
Okay, all right. And then my other question is, as the lots are being merged into an existing manufactured housing park, the merger will be for the land only. Most mergers are for the land only, but so how is that going to be designated that they're all merged, but the numbers will be retained to identify the dwelling units? How does that work?
Similar to when we have like a I want to say it's similar to when we have like a PUD or a condominium development where all the land is held in common and it's on one lot, but then you have separate parcel ID numbers for the dwelling units themselves. It's not for taxation purposes on our end, but there needs to be a method of identifying that individual dwelling unit when it transfers to another owner. So we're retaining those in our system. And
Okay.
it also will assist in any, if there are any building permits pulled, rather than, well, it's the one over there on the left, we need to have some way of identifying each individual unit.
Okay, I get it, thank you.
Okay, yeah, normally, what we would do is we'd say, okay, so map 2, lot 22, dash 2, 3, and 4 now become map 2, lot 22. That's normally what we do. We merge it all into one lot, but we can't do that, and we can't take away those identification numbers in this instance.
Okay.
Okay, thank
I
you.
understand, thank you.
Okay. I suspect somebody down the road is going to get confused by that, but I understand why you have to retain original unit numbers,
Yeah,
If
it was
not-
at the direction of the assessing department.
if not parcel numbers. Any other questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Just before I read this here, I just want to make it clear based on what Mr. Myers made a comment of. If we follow the recommendation listed here, it does discuss access to septic system exists for the merged lots. So that satisfies your requirement?
Well, it would just seem to me that we have to make that a condition of approval, that's all.
Well, it
Yeah.
is actually in the motion maker move,
Okay.
on the back page.
I didn't get that far, I'm sorry.
All right, seeing no further questions? Then I move to approve pursuant to RSA 674:39-a, the voluntary merger of PID 02022 97.5 Fordway Extension and PID 02022-002 02022-003 and 02022-004, 97 Fordway, extension number 2, 3, and 4. The merger is for the land only. The parcel ID numbers will be retained for future sales of the dwelling units. As a condition of approval, the applicant shall provide documentation that the lots have access to an approved septic system.
Second.
Yeah, now I got it. Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Amalby to grant conditional approval. Any other discussion? I will poll the board. Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mr. Grenice?
Excuse me, yes.
Mr. O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Fishman?
Yes.
Mr. Mousy?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Malaby?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We have another voluntary merger, Thomas Marshall, 2 parcels, PID 01002-0150002 for Thomas Street, and PID 01002-0366 Thomas Street.
This one is much easier. So the, similar, the 2 lots are owned by the same entity. They're located on the Windham Town Line in the LMDR zone, which requires 2 acres and 150 feet of frontage. Frontage does not change with this application, but the lot area will increase to 2.22 acres and make the resulting lot more conforming. There's no mortgage on these lots, so mortgagee consent was not required, and a merger of these 2 lots will not violate existing regulations or ordinances.
Okay, any questions? There is sort of a plat on what looks like to be an assessment card. Is that what we're looking at, Ms. Robidoux?
That is just the outline of the existing structure on the,
Okay, so
on the
there's
lot.
no,
There's no
there's no plat
plat
of
with
the-
this one, no.
of the buildings. That's
So-
fine. I guess we don't really need one for a merger, so that's fine.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, seeing no further questions, I move to approve pursuant to RSA 674:39-a, the voluntary merger of PID 01002-0150002 for Thomas Street and PID 01002-036 6 Thomas Street, parcel 01002-036 will be deleted and parcel 01002-0150002 will be retained. And I so
Second.
move.
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malaby to approve as presented. Poll the board, Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman.
Yes.
Mr. Mousy.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Mr. Malaby.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay. That takes care of mergers, and we have a request to add an external storage container on the property of Liberty Health Services, PID 08280-006, 29 Ashley Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on April 18th in 2018, the planning board approved a site plan for a 10,750 square foot health service facility. With the approval, the board also granted a waiver to allow 26 parking spaces where 54 were required based on the use type. The property is in the Industrial 4 zoning district. The applicant is before the board this evening to request the addition of a storage container which would be placed in an unused parking space adjacent to the dumpster enclosure. The applicant has provided the request in writing, which you have, along with an explanation of the use, proposed location, and pictures of the site. Although the container can be moved, it will likely be a more permanent structure on the lot. And the board would be asked to consider the location and site circulation and how this may or may not set precedent on private sites in the commercial, in commercial and industrial lots. And the applicant should ensure the placement of the storage container in this parking space does not interfere with the operation of Catch Basin 2, which is located between the parking space and the dumpster enclosure. I don't anticipate it would, but that would be a concern. We don't want to interfere with drainage. So it's recommended the board discuss the request and the merits of utilizing the parking space for the use by a storage container. And if you agree with the request, a suggested motion is provided. Melissa is here from Liberty to answer any questions the board might have.
Procedurally, where does this fall? Is this technically an amendment to an approved site plan?
And this is where I was a little, I wasn't sure and thought this should come to the board, because if they were adding a shed, maybe not a big deal, building permit depending on the size. But where, in this instance, the board had approved a waiver to allow pretty much half the number of parking spaces that would be required for a building of that size and use. I didn't feel it was in staff purview to approve any additions to the site or anything that would take up a parking space without the planning board reviewing that request first. There's documentation in the request that proves that they're not utilizing that parking space now. But, it's that kind of gray area where it's not a large addition to the site, but it's enough of a change that it should be reviewed.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Well, I'll let some other people ask questions. I'm sort of thinking about how we actually word this so that we're not creating a new process that we have never had before. Anyone else have thoughts on this? Mr. O'Connor?
Yeah, I'd like to bring this up because, and I'll ask Liz and not put her on the spot, but putting not a dumpster, but a container there, there's nothing in any of the zoning or LDCRs or codes within the town of Derry to control these things. For
Correct.
example, I went up to Walmart today. They have 11 of these exact same containers. My guess is similar. You go to Christmas, they got like 20 some odd up there.
It's all their
It's a
seasonal.
nice way to get around paying
seasonal stuff.
taxes on a warehouse that should have been built instead of having trailers. That's just my opinion. Secondly, you go across the street from this location, there's a big giant utility trailer there too. You drive around the neighborhood, go down B Street and those areas, and there's more trailers there. You go down to some of the neighborhoods, and a lot of the people, and I can tell you one area near my house where there's a trailer there, a container. So, looking at their facility, how well kept it is down there, I was very, very impressed. I did check the backside of it because of the potential wetlands and capturing of the water flow. And that's, considering everything that's happened over the years, it looks like it's still pretty well contained. If somebody wanted to make a recommendation, was to do similar what they did with the dumpsters, is to shade it from the circle. Not that many people other than me go down to that circle there. And across the street, you have North Point that's running there. So that's what, I mean, these things are throughout the whole town. And maybe something we need to address.
Well, you
later
spawned a
on.
couple more questions. Mr. Chase, I think, was up first.
I just wanted to try to set Mr. Connor's mind at ease, is unless they have changed, as far as the town is concerned, even if it's a trailer, if it's not registered, it's considered a structure and it is taxed. These containers are taxed like sheds. If they're sitting on the ground, they're not on wheels, and they're not registered, they're considered taxable.
Would that be under the NFPA or under the
The
code?
town, I think it's under the towns. I don't know whether it's statewide or not, but I know the town does.
I mean, obviously, we're not doing anything with it because it's, these things are
Yeah.
spread like wildfire.
Because I got taxed on
Yeah.
them, so I know they do it.
And something, I'll probably reach out to
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey and ask him.
I mean, it was on wheels with a trailer hitch, but it wasn't registered, so I got taxed on it.
Mr. Grenies?
I see no problem with this going there. They're probably doing this mainly because this is more secure, it's weatherproof. I know a lot of businesses in town that have these, and I'm up in that area a lot, and I could verify that they're not using all those parking spots, because I know the people that have been in that facility, I've met a few of them, they're not allowed to bring their vehicles up there. They get dropped off, and usually they're in there for 30 days, so normally it's just the staff and anybody who's doing business there on a day, so I see no problem with them taking up a parking spot, and I understand why it's before us, because we did approve a lot less parking spots when we saw this.
Mr. Myers?
Oh, yeah, just probably a stupid question, but, and I think it's probably an okay thing too, but I just want to clarify where it says that this will be on an unused space, an unused parking space. Is this one of the 26 parking spaces that were allowed in the waiver, or is it not one of those?
It's one of the 26 parking spaces that were allowed by the waiver, but it is not utilized as a parking space because there aren't enough vehicles in the lot to, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
There-
it makes sense. It's
yeah.
just my usual objection to, granting waivers like they're candy. And then to say it's not used kind of changes the focus that it's one of the ones that was allowed when they cut in half the requirement. But I don't see a problem with it. I just wanted to make that note, that's all.
Anyone else? So, having thought about it, given that we apparently do not actually regulate portable storage containers within the planning board's jurisdiction, I'm going to suggest that we not move to approve the placement of a storage container. We simply approve a decrease of one available parking space. Anyone's thoughts on that?
I would vote against that because, again, as I've said before, this board grants waivers of the town's policy, which is adopted with a great deal of thought, a lot of time, a lot of input. And we grant these waivers as though you're throwing out candy at a parade. And then I know it's only one space, and I would approve it as proposed. But to say, okay, we already cut in half the requirement, now we're going to cut it down one more space, no.
No, I understand. I guess what I'm asking is, rather than phrasing it as an approval of the storage container, phrase it as the approval of one fewer space, whether you vote for that or against it. I'm just not comfortable approving a storage container, which is not something we regulate. Mr. Grenies?
Thank you. I agree with Mr. Myers. I would be to approve this as an amendment to the condition, because if they brought this, if they were gonna put this there when we saw this back in 2018, this would have been mentioned, and this would have been part of the plan. So I think if we approve it, it now becomes part of the plan. Is that correct, Ms. Robideau?
It does.
Well, this is my original concern. The legal way for it to become part of the plan is to come back and amend the plan, whether you're only amending the conditions or whether you're amending the layout, whatever you're amending. But an amended site plan requires a public notice and a public hearing. We can't just say, oh, yeah, that's okay. I don't think. So I'm trying to not get us into legal trouble, is what I'm saying.
Understood. I thought there was a provision in our regulations that allowed minor changes to be reviewed and brought to the board for consideration. This I consider a structure, almost as if they were adding a shed to it, but I don't think it rises to, I don't think it rises to the level, it's one of those in-between areas. I don't think it rises to the level of a full site plan review or amendment, but it should have planning board oversight.
So maybe
Yeah.
another way is we occasionally do what's called a site plan determination. We could decide to waive formal site plan review of this request.
Okay, and we can move forward that way if the board would feel more comfortable doing that in a more
I just don't
formal
want to
setting.
approve something that technically should have had a public hearing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Grenice?
So I've just, my mind's going here, and as you were speaking, I saw Mr. LaRue shaking his head, and so I'm thinking, and this could be like, we approve a plan, and he's out there on a site, and you say, change order. When there's a change order, something like that, does that have to come, that doesn't come back to the planning board? That's something that you guys do, correct?
It's a unique situation, granted. You do have to have some sort of record of it, and how you have that record is kind of where we're in a gray area, because you should have something written on the site plan, you should have a note written on the site plan, something like that. Usually when we do a project and we have changes, let's say we move the dumpster from one spot to another, and it comes in during that process of it being constructed, and we come in, mid-construction, you'll approve, an SK drawing or something, or have a condition that you approved it, and it'll be on the final plan, an amended final plan. It's kind of like a site determination, I think, more than anything, but it's just the way that you want to record it, I guess. It's a little bit a question mark in my mind.
I mean, can I make one more comment? So I get that, but, and I don't want to throw any other businesses out around town, but at least they're doing the right thing, coming to the town saying, hey, we want to do this, versus other businesses of town haven't done that and just plopped the storage container in a space. So at least they're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to discourage them from seeking approval and on their behalf, maybe hopefully getting approval. I just want to make sure the planning board is doing the right thing in terms of process.
Correct. If I may ask, Melissa, would it be an issue to, if we filed a formal site plan determination application for our February 5th meeting? Would that hold you up too much? We could follow that process. Okay, we could follow, if the board's more comfortable, and this is an instance where I'm finding my feet too, and trying to find the best way forward when we get requests like this. So, don't have a problem with, working with them to get an application, and we have time. Our deadline is Tuesday for an application, so we could get this on the agenda for our next meeting for the board's formal consideration, and it would notice the abutters.
Okay. If that doesn't inconvenience you substantially, then maybe that'd be the safer way to go. And as to Mr. LaRue's comment, yeah, there's always field change orders, and if they're minor, they typically get put on the final as-built plan. I can only remember one in my tenure with the board, it was a privacy fence, a chain link fence with privacy slatting that had to go along the back edge of, was it, I forget the road, but behind, like the Hannaford.
Oh, yes. Prior to my time, but I
And-
remember
and,
that. Mhm.
A staff member who shall not be named in the field traded that off, said, yeah, you don't have to do the fence, just give me a guardrail. Well, that was a specific abutter request, so it came back before the planning board, and we said, you gotta put the fence back. So it depends on the scope. Yeah, most of the things are only handled in the field unless it's an explicit butter remediation effort, in which case the planning board may say, nah, you need to put it back in.
Okay.
Mr. Chase.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, if it wasn't going in a parking space that was waivered, this would only be going before the building inspector, just to get a permit for a shed. If they were putting it anywhere but that parking space. That's where the real gray area comes from, is some of these other businesses may have put them in their parking spaces, but they didn't have any kind of a waiver, and they have an excess, and it doesn't matter. You gotta weigh that against this. That's where the real issue comes from, is the fact that it was waived parking, and now they're planting this there. If this was on wheels and registered, it wouldn't be an issue. They can park a vehicle in their space as long as they want. But where it's sitting on the ground, now it's considered a structure, and so I agree with Mr. Nelson. It really should be handled correctly, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would like to get to an amenable decision. I just want to make sure we preserve the planning board's interest, and that we don't get, we don't set precedents that we shouldn't. So
Yeah.
if coming back next meeting with a site plan determination, which we can then waive the
help
site
you with
plan
that.
review, that would be probably the easiest way. Yeah, you probably need to come up and use the mic if we're going to get into discussions.
Yeah, that will help Lisa when she's doing the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess the question is more probably for my own curiosity, but if this storage unit, while it's intended to be there for the foreseeable future, as I don't have an end date in mind at this time, I do know our company is planning to grow. So when you discuss site amendments and whatnot, does that make that become a permanent piece of that site plan, or, and then would we have to go back to redo that? I'm just not sure of that process. So I guess.
I think if we go through the site plan determination process, and I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but if we go through the site plan determination process and they approve the location of it in that spot, and you later take it out of there, I don't think that's not going to be a violation. You don't have to come back to remove it. But, you know, any further expansion, if you decide to expand the building or, you know, things like that, that would require another formal review.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I got.
All right, so we should probably put a formal close to this in the form of a motion. And maybe the motion would be to request this to come back as a site plan determination.
So moved.
So moved by Malamy, seconded by O'Connor, to request that this parking issue come back as a site plan determination for the next meeting. I will poll the board. Mr. Chase.
Yes.
Mr. Healy.
Yes.
Mr. Grenice.
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor.
Yes.
Mr. Fishman.
Yes.
Mr. Mousy.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
I vote no, because I think we're way overcomplicating this. All they want to do is put a storage container in one of the lots, and I think we're way overcomplicating this, so I vote no.
Mr. Malady.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is an update from the Gateway Zoning Committee.
Okay. On January 6th, we had our first visioning session for the Gateway District. It was a very spirited discussion. We had a very large attendance, 50 members, more than 50 members of the public attended. We got a great amount of feedback and interest from stakeholders. As a reminder, we'll be doing the next visioning session February 10th for Subzone 2, which is west of Franklin Street extension to the town border with Londonderry, which is mostly industrial 6 with a mix of industrial and commercial uses, as well as some single-family residences. So notifications will be going out if they have not already gone out.
They went out today.
They went out today. We encourage the public to attend. It's great feedback. All this will be culminating in a final visioning session later in the spring. Sorry, I forgot to say there will be a third session on February 24th for Zone 1 as well. But this is a great opportunity for residents and stakeholders in the town to have their visions for the town's future in this area heard, captured, and be part of a broader plan. So we're very appreciative for all the public engagement that we've had so far, and we look forward to continuing that conversation.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any color commentary that is not captured in the minutes that you would like to add?
I think the staff did a great job capturing the entire discussion and distilling that all down in the minutes, so no, they looked complete.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we move on to planning director and chairman updates.
Just very few. For our next meeting, looks like we'll have a site plan determination. Also, a site plan review for 187 Hampstead Road, and potentially a 3-lot subdivision. And then at some point, I would like to have a discussion with the board about any goals or amendments that are on the board's radar this year for either the zoning ordinance or the LDCRs. I know we've got the visioning piece for the gateway area, but if there's anything additional, I know the fire department is looking at the cistern requirements and also some potential changes to the fire protection piece of our land development control regulations that they'll be bringing to the board later this year.
Okay, great. Yeah, for the members' benefit, I will be making the obligatory January status update report to the town council on the 21st. So Liz kindly put together a slide deck, and so just a couple of things that I added as goals is, one, to revisit detached ADU regulations, because when we were doing the zoning amendment, we got into a discussion, we decided, well, that's way too complicated for tonight, so we probably need to come back to that at some point. And then also just to track all of the legislation going on in Concord this year regarding planning, zoning, and housing, because there is quite a bit of it. I will note that we still have a vacancy for alternate, and I was reminded by Ms. Bodenrader, who is the executive administrative assistant, that we have some members whose term is up on March 31st, specifically Mr. Feinauer, Mr. Myers, Mr. Healy, Mr. Chase, and Mr. Mousy, and I would encourage you all to re-enlist. Go to the town's website and fill out the volunteer application form, because the town council will be filling those seats at their March meeting. So I would encourage everyone to, stay with the team, but you're going to have to go and re-nominate yourself.
Okay. Oh, one additional item: the town council will be holding its public hearing on the recent zoning amendments that we had recommended to them. So that will be at the meeting on the 21st as well.
Oh, well, that may be a longer night than I anticipated.
Very long night.
Okay. That's all I have. We're now to board member comments. Does anyone have comments they would like to make? Mr.
I
Myers?
just want to let you know that I will not be re-enlisting. I will be dodging the draft, and so there will be one. I will not be reapplying, so there will be one wide open seat.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I told you that before, but.
Well, people,
I just want to let people know that
change
there's
their mind, and
there's an opportunity
and I
for an
do
open seat.
occasionally, do a little subtle arm twisting. So, yeah,
I'm dodging.
public, we have at least one full member vacancy and an alternate vacancy, so if you think we're having a lot of fun here, and we usually do, consider joining us. Any other member comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Moved by O'Connor, seconded by Malamy to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Me.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you all.